real learning and creating these new neural pathways in the brain happens when we recall and reflect on what just happened. And that's kind of the purpose of this Mirrors podcast is to do that. But it's also an element of high level coaching, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Just coaching in general, coaches we've had, coaching that we've done, even coaches that maybe we see online or coaches, life coaches, or even NFL coaches and stuff like that. So who knows where we'll go. Coaching is so broad. There's so many types of coaches, and coaching is valuable in every element of life. And so we just want to talk about today our experience and our knowledge of coaching. So I'll kick it over to you, Leo.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to start with coaching in general, all types of coaching and like what it means to be a coach. And one thing I was thinking about is how coaches take on the role of a boss, a teacher and a parent all into one job. I know there's other jobs
Mm-hmm.
that take on those roles as well, but coaching you have to be a boss, so you have to take care of your players or who you're in charge of and make sure they're staying on task, doing the right thing. You have to be a teacher because you have to know, especially for younger kids, you have to know what you're talking about and help them learn as well. And you have to be a parent because you have to be friendly with the players or the children, and you have to help them feel invited and not feel left out. And you have to, like, some kids, they spend more time with their coaches if they're good enough at a sport than they do with their parents because they're just training 24/7.
There's a lot of people that come from situations where the best role model or parental figure in their life is their coach.
Yeah.
We've probably all heard of stories like that, or even one movie that I loved growing up, and it's based off a true story, is the Coach Carter
Mm-hmm.
movie. And I always had that scene of Timo Cruz, the guy that's involved in a gang and all this stuff. And he has this big inspirational quote, and he's just tearing up. He's like, "Coach, like you saved my life," and it's legit because he made that big of a difference. But yeah, I like what you said about boss, parent, teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I said those out of order, but boss, teacher, parent. I actually wrote this down because my initial view of coaching, especially all through growing up, because coaching was only associated with sports,
Mm-hmm.
was it was the leader of the team telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And that may be an element to it, but that's not actually what coaching is. The purpose of coaching is to help people to become aware and effective and responsible about their role. And so if we're talking about a sports team, we want that the shooting guard on the basketball team to be aware and take responsibility and be really effective about his role so that the coach doesn't have to tell him what to do over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when people hear coaching, they hear tell them what to do and then they'll listen, tell them what to do and they'll listen. And that's not only not super it's sorry, it can work in circumstances, but it's not the most effective way to do it. So a lot of coaching actually involves a lot of teaching, to your point, and being relational like a parent to get to know the athlete, to get to know the colleague, to get to know the kid so that you can be effective at how to communicate with them, get it in their mind so
Mm-hmm.
they can do whatever the task is from a sports thing to a business thing without you needing to be there all the time.
Yeah. I think it's just such an important job. It's very similar to like a school teacher as well in a lot of those cases, especially for kids growing up. They go right from school right to practice and they get to be around their coach. And it's just like if you're a parent, I feel like it's so important to make sure your child is getting the right coaching and figuring out what to do to like make that situation better if the coaching's not what it needs to be.
So, bold question for you here, but you mentioned the right coaching. So, if somebody were to ask you, well, what does it mean to have the right coaching? What does that mean?
I actually have something I wrote down that is perfect for that.
Oh,
I made a little chart I'm not going to show it because the handwriting's awful. But it's like a little, oh, what's it called? It's like, why can't I think of the word for it now? It's like two.
Does it have circles?
No, it's like four boxes with two things on top, two things on the side, and it like connects. I'm at a loss for what it's supposed to
So
be.
it's like a graph, but it's like a box that
Here,
has four
I'll
different
show you.
quadrants.
Yeah, I'll show you here. It's like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep.
So it like,
Oh, nasty. Put that handwriting
yeah,
away.
cut that out of the video. Anyway, so I have on the top, I have knowledgeable and unknowledgeable or not as knowledgeable. And then on the side, I have like personal development or like good at personal development and lacking personal development, meaning, or as you said earlier, like relations and like relational. So I think a bad coach, like a really bad coach that probably shouldn't be the coach of the team, doesn't really know what they're talking about with the sport or with the task that they're coaching, and they're not that good at relating to their players and developing their players or whoever they're coaching in like a personal sense away from
Mhm.
away from the subject that they're coaching about. And then you can have like pretty good coaches or okay coaches that they're not that knowledgeable about what they are coaching about, but then they are really good with their players and super friendly. You might not be that great of a team or might not get super far at that time in that skill or whatever, but they're at least trying to be relational with the players. And then in the same vein, you could like know a ton about the sport and be super knowledgeable, but then not very good with the players. You probably have some success because the coach is just so knowledgeable that it can make up for the lack of relationship with the players. And then you have the great coaches, and the easiest one that comes to mind is Kevin O'Connell, obviously, who knows a ton about the sport and about what he's coaching, but also everybody loves them. They're like
Mhm.
everyone's second father, you know what I mean?
For our audience, who the heck is Kevin O'Connell?
Kevin O'Connell is the Vikings head coach. I would hope most people know
Yeah.
that, but you don't. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Hey, if they're not into football, then
Yeah, I
they'll have
guess.
no
I
idea.
guess that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, well, you brought up, so when you're talking about that, you mentioned the first example. If they're not very knowledgeable and not very personable, they probably shouldn't be the coach, anyways.
Hmm.
Sometimes you see that though, because I want to go beyond sports at least a little bit
Yeah.
here too. You'll see that at lower levels where it's just like, hey, junior high, we need somebody to
Hmm.
be the coach so these kids can have a team. Like that's gonna happen, but it even happens in business when somebody needs to fill a role or somebody moves jobs or somebody gets fired. It's like,
Hmm.
shoot, we need to fill this spot. So sometimes you'll have to deal with that coach. The highly knowledgeable but not very personable was like your classic old authoritarian coach,
Hmm.
or it's a classic like boss CEO. Like when I tell you what to do, just do it because I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And the classic like super relatable but doesn't have all the knowledge of what's going on is like the classic assistance coach on a sports
Yeah.
team. If you're a sports team or any kind of team, I should say business as well, you always need that one person that can just galvanize the group, be motivational, be funny,
Yeah.
and just like people can be friends with. And I think then obviously the cream of the crop and the best teams, businesses, things like that are when you have high knowledge, high relatability with the players, with the colleagues, and that's the ideal head coach. And the best coaching staffs are the ones that have a bunch of assistants and leaders that all are highly knowledgeable and relational.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of what you're going for. To make a quick point here, there's a lot of different types of coaching, and you can have coaching for any specific thing. So if you're fundraising, you can have a fundraising coach. You can have a life coach. You can have a business coach. You can have a culture building coach, things like that.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, coaching, there's a lot of styles of coaching, and some people like that hard headed, straight to the point, authoritarian coach. but a lot of other people that turns them off. And so if you're looking for coaching in your life, there's actually a lot of styles you can go for and people that will give you different types of coaching, styles of coaching. So ones I've written down are authoritarian, relational, holistic, motivational, transformational. And transformational is probably the most popular one nowadays because it's about changing from where you are to who you want to be. And a lot of people are trying to transform
Yeah.
into that way. So the whole purpose of coaching is to help and develop the person to be who they want to be without you needing to be there.
Yeah. One thing about the specifically the authoritarian style of coach, like it sounds, like super knowledgeable, but then not great with the players. But if you think about it, if someone wants that type of coach, then it probably is relatable to them, for lack of a better word there, because even though they might not come off as relational or whatever, it might be exactly what that person needs, meaning that it is then a great coach for that person.
Yeah, I think the number one thing people forget about coaching, well, I'm going to make a preface statement first. So I've coached, junior high, high school, college sports, and now I'm in my work. I actually coach people beneath me in
Hmm.
my job as well. So coaching is a lot of the things I've done, and not just sports, but in life coaching and things like that too. And what people don't realize about coaching a lot is that it's almost impossible to please everybody when you're a coach.
Hmm.
There's no style fits everybody. And so if you have the time and space to have a coach, let's say it's a life coach or whatever, know that every coach is going to act a little differently. And if you're in a position where you're trying to get coaching, you can kind of mix and match and go through different coaches to find the one that's right for you. If you're a part of a team that there's a coach coaching multiple people, you have to understand that coach is going to have a personality and to communicate with them what's more effective for you. But certain people have, to your point, different ways. Like somebody wants that hard nosed coach.
Hmm.
It's like great, but that's also the person we stereotypically see like that coach was just mean and aggressive and I just hated him and I hated my life and I
Yeah.
didn't want to do this thing anymore. However, what people don't talk about a lot of times is there's that individual that wants the hard nosed coaching, and there's somebody that's just being super relational and fluffy, and this person's like, I'm wasting my time here. I don't
Yeah.
even want to be here. That's never talked about because it's not as aggressive, but that's another way of somebody just giving up because they're not getting what they need.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of like backlash, I guess. Maybe not backlash, but a lot of negativity when it comes to a peer players coach, specifically talking about like NFL coaches. People you go using the Vikings again as an example. You go from a coach like Mike Zimmer, who was known to be pretty hard and authoritarian, and then a coach like Kevin O'Connell, who at first glance seems very fluffy, as you said. He's like he just wants to make everyone happy. And if you see that and you're into football and you're like, these players aren't learning everything. They're going to be so soft and they're not going to learn anything. They're not going to be good. But there's a lot of coaching that you don't see unless you're the player or part of the staff that that goes into it. And like
Mhm.
outside looking in, you'll never fully know that.
Yeah. So if someone were to come up to you and say, "What's the purpose of coaching?" And anyways, what would you tell them?
I would say, oof. I would say
Put them on the spot.
to better individuals. Hold up, that's not what I wanted to say. to to better whoever your coaching's skills in like that particular area, while also making it feel like a family, I guess is what I would say. So the
Hmm.
best, for example, the best coaches I've had knew what they were talking about, and then they made the team feel like a family. And I think that's super important. So if you have a coach that betters the players' skill in that area while making them come together as a family, I think is the best way I could put it, being put on the spotlight.
There's a buzzword nowadays, but it's actually true too. A lot of coaching is culture building.
Mm-hmm.
You want the people to want to be there. That's the number one thing. So if people are around,
Yeah.
what's the quote? The best ability is availability. And a lot of times that has to do with injury related things.
Yeah.
However, it's also true if you want to get the most out of your business, out of your colleagues, out of your teammates, people need to be there. And they not only want to be there physically, you need them to be there mentally and emotionally and spiritually. So creating a culture that they want to be there is a huge part of coaching. Because the coaching, it is for the development of the people underneath it, which is 100% true. But it's also you're coaching. The main purpose of coaching, I would say, is you're coaching the potential that somebody has. So you have to coach them where they're at, but you have to coach them where you want them to be.
Yeah.
It's obviously, we kind of talked about this in Atomic Habits. You want to do an X amount of percent beyond their current capacity. And so if you're teaching a junior high basketball, you can't be doing NBA drills with them.
Yeah.
However, you shouldn't be stuck in middle school drills with them if you want them to get better. A lot of what I realized when I was coaching basketball, for example, is people need to understand the flow of the sport and what it actually means to actually play the sport in like a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful way before then understanding the little the reason this play works is because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. But just sitting there and talking about do this because I said so is not effective overall. So you want people to get to a level where they can do the thing naturally without you, but you have to coach that potential that's inside them
Yeah.
with where they're at right now.
Yeah. Back to the point of coaching to their potential, but still what they're capable of doing at that moment. I'm of the mindset that I would always rather have a coach what is supposed to be done, even if it's really hard for me or whoever at the time. Obviously, you need it to be like somewhat possible, but it's hard to coach something that in a year from now you probably shouldn't be doing because you're going to be bigger or stronger or better at this
Mhm.
area. So it's like almost like a shortcut just to get you to be a little bit better right now. And I'd rather take time to do the proper way or get coached the best way possible. I saw there's this, I don't know if you've seen it, there's like this MLB player who's on a talk show or whatever. He was basically talking about how all these young kids get coached by people and they say to get on top of the ball so they get hits. And he's saying, he basically said, like, don't do that because when the higher up you get, those are all going to be outs because ground balls are
Mhm.
outs. So he's basically saying, like, he said you get paid for doubles, you get paid for homers is what he said. So, and like,
Yeah.
I like that mindset. I understand coaching. Like if you have little kids, it's hard to not like have them just get hits, for example, but you want to coach them the right way. So in 10 years from now, they're the best player they can be if that's like their goal.
So that's a good point because today's culture with like the instant gratification and not having to wait for things, it's actually really hard to be a coach nowadays because you want the instant results. Where a lot of coaches, especially when we talk about NFL or professional levels, but even in a business setting, even in a life setting, you have to give coaches time for their process, for their culture, for their
Mm-hmm.
style to take place and for things to be effective. So I like the example of the ground ball because it's like, okay, good job, kid. You hit 500 in Little League Baseball, but
Yeah.
you were just hitting grounders to third and are fast enough to get to first. Like you do that in high school and college, you're going to be out every single time.
Yeah.
And so teaching, same thing with basketball. I realized I was really good at basketball growing up, but I had an awesome hook shot and the offense ran through me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I got older, I'm like, oh, I didn't understand the actual flow of basketball. So it actually hurt me in the long run because I didn't know how to play the game
Yeah.
and the right, correct fullness of it.
Yeah. Back to that like instant gratification. That's a really good point about coaching because you don't want to coach just for 2, 3 months of development. You want to coach for 10 plus years of development, hopefully, if you're in the position to do that. And I think for any type of coach, you need to be aware that, like, okay, this is going to go longer than this short little period. So it's okay if they mess up, it's okay if they struggle, but doing this the right way is going to lead to 100 times better results in the future.
I've been in many coaching circles where you win a game and the coach isn't happy, and that's because the coach realizes we didn't play well enough to win. We just ended up happened to win.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the vice versa is true. You play well, somebody else just has a good game, you tip your hat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about doing the processes right because that gives you the highest chance of having success. And you're actually building the habit of how you want to play, how you want to live, how you want to be as a person. And so we were talking about like relating to players. We talked about helping your coachees to take responsibility and to be aware. And the question is, okay, how do you do that? And the number one thing all these coaching books talk about is to be really, really curious, to pretend or to actually be curious. How do you be curious? You ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the purpose of coaching is not you telling the person what to do, it's having a conversation to ask the questions for them to talk about, okay, what do I actually want? What's actually most effective? What can I actually do? What are my opportunities? What are my obstacles? And at the end of the day, what am I going to do? Not only like long term, but like this day, this week, my goal. The question is, what am I going to do? So, a good coaching question for those who have maybe heard it or never heard it is the GROW model. And there's many ways to do this. But the GROW model is all about it's an acronym. So G is the goals. Like, what are your goals? What do you want? And this can be far fetched, not realistic, because the R is all right, what's the reality? Where are you at right now? What's the realistic? What's the reality of the situation? Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
The O is like, all right, what are your options? What are opportunities you have? What are obstacles in the way? What are your options? List out there maybe like 5, 6, 7 things you can do. And the W is all right, what are you going to do? You actually then make a decision about this is what I'm going to do. And it's not the coach telling you what to do. So if you're my coachee, we go through this process, and then you're at the end saying, all right, I, Leo, am going to do this. And that's what good coaching is because you're taking ownership of it yourself. And so it's not, oh, Brady told me to do this and it didn't work, so this sucks. It's, we talked about it, we thought through it. This seemed to be the most effective. I'm going to give it a shot. If it works, great. If not, back to the drawing board. Let's try again.
Yeah, I think one of the quickest ways to fail as a coach is to think that you're always going to be right and you're always going to know exactly what that person needs and exactly what you're supposed to do in like every situation and not let the person you're coaching have any input into that decision. One thing with dog training that I'm trying to learn about, and I already know in my head I'm never going to let this happen, but some trainers, which are basically coaches to the owners and the dog, they tell the owner what to do with their dog, and it can like ruin some dogs because it's not the right thing to do. Like no one knows the dog more than the owner that's had it for years or whatever. So what is the, like, all dogs are different. How does that trainer automatically know what the dog needs without getting the input? So I think
Because his name is Caesar Milan.
I think he's
He's a
pretty
whisperer.
I think he's pretty good at that, but the it's just so
He's an anomaly.
it's just so hard to make any real progress if the coach of whatever category it's in just doesn't change its mindset or doesn't allow for curiosity, as you said.
Yeah, curiosity is the number one thing. I so there's a lot of coaching books. I want to just give a shout out to some of them that I've read. The Coaching Habit, Coaching for Performance, Coactive Coaching. There's some other like subcategories of coaching books, like Four Disciplines of Execution, Extreme Ownership, Start with Why, things like this, and they're just really good to read to talk about how how do I want to actually make an effective change with the people I'm working with? Because theoretically, if you're coaching, you actually care either about the people or about the business, whatever the heck it is. And so, if you want to be the most effective, to your point with that grid earlier, you actually need to have the knowledge of what's going on and you have to be working with people because coaching is all about working with people. And I think that's the best and worst part about coaching
Yeah.
is that you're working with people.
Hmm.
So it's always an adventure because it's always going to be different. And even if you have a stud person on your team, they might have bad days or bad moments.
Hmm.
And so coaching is all about getting the highest potential out of people. And the best way to do that is for them to realize the potential themselves. And how you help them realize potential is by helping keeping them accountable, motivating them, and then being curious to ask them questions so that it kind of triggers them on the inside. A good example of this is I love the movie Inception. Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
I know it, but I've never seen it.
Leonardo DiCaprio. It's like a dream within a dream within a dream,
Hmm.
things like that. The main point though is like to do Inception, you have to go deep enough in the brain where the idea that the person has, they think it comes from themselves, even though you, the person in the movie, planted that idea in their head.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea is people making decisions because of a thought they had, not realizing that somebody planted that in their head.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of what you're trying to do with coaching because it's so effective when it's coming from within versus somebody from the outside.
Yeah. Like, how many athletes do you see mess up their life, even though they have such high potential and such high talent level? It's
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
It's not the coach's fault
And I
99% of the time.
This is an awesome. I totally forgot I was going to say this today. This is great. Okay, perfect segue, Leo. So Nick Saban, famous former coach Alabama football, like him or hate him. I mean, if you're not an Alabama fan, you probably hate him, but he's actually a good person overall. He had a guy. I don't know his name, but he had a player years ago, 15, 20 years ago, that he got in trouble early on in his career at Alabama as a football player and people were saying, "Why do you have this guy on your team? Why did you keep him around? Like, you should just kick him out. He's not good for the culture. You can't have people like that making mistakes and then still getting to play." And he said, "I'm all about giving people second chances." He said, "You don't understand where some of these athletes that are coming to Alabama come from, where if they go back home, they might not be getting into good situations."
Hmm.
Long story short, this guy ended up having a good career at Alabama, got drafted in the NFL, played for 15 years, and now is like an owner of a business with like 3 or 4 kids. And Nick Saban goes, "Who do you think was right? The people that told me to give up on him
Yeah.
or me that gave him a second chance?"
Yeah.
I was like, that's a good coach right there.
I mean, it's so true. There's just because there's so many athletes that do mess up, get into legal trouble, whatever it may be. There's a lot of them have coaches that give them second chances, and it really helps them grow, like personally. Not even in has nothing to do with the sport. They could not get any playing time, but the coach could help them grow in their life, and then after the sport, their whole life path changes.
hmm hmm Well, what I liked about that story, assuming that it's very genuine, is that Saban didn't say, "Well, I kept him on and he was a stud for us and we won the national championship."
Hmm.
No, he mentioned like I kept him on, and now he's a father that owns a business with a family and like 3 kids.
Yeah.
Like he was focusing on like long term. This
Mhm.
is a very good win, even though hey, people were trying to tell me get rid of this guy. He said no, he needs another chance.
Yeah, and you do that for long enough, and you get known as the greatest head coach in college football history. So,
Yeah, yeah, right. Um, I've heard this said before. I think if we segue a little bit towards more sports here, is that okay? Either coaching matters or it doesn't. A lot of times we talk about this stud
yeah,
athlete without the coach, or we talk about the stud coach with no athletes. It's like they obviously have to be combined. But the quote, since we're talking about coaching today, is all right, either coaching matters or it doesn't. And obviously, we believe that coaching does matter, helps create greater performance, helps teach life lessons that we talked about. And it also, one of the main things about sports that I love is that it helps people, sorry, coaching in general, but it helps people to grow in virtue if you do it well. There's natural virtues a lot of times when people are living their lives, but these natural virtues can flow over into like emotional and even spiritual virtues to help people like, all right, if I can persevere in this workout, I can persevere in this accountability with my work. I can also persevere when some difficult situation happens in my life. To give a not very
Yeah.
clear, but to give a vague example.
Hmm.
But yeah, and that just goes to the story I just said, so not to repeat it, but that gentleman who got that second chance, he's grown a lot in probably in his athletic ability, but then also in his he's got owner of a business, so he took some of those virtues he gained from sport to be an owner of a business, and then hopefully with his family as well to everybody knows every family has its challenges. So if you're married and have 3 kids like this guy does, he's had to persevere through those things too, and it
Yeah.
all stemmed from coaching, really.
Yeah. More towards actual examples of coaching I wanted to talk about, if that's all right.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go there.
Is so I want to talk about specifically some NFL coaching jobs currently.
Oh, this will be fun. All right, people, let's get into NFL.
So the first one, we already talked a little bit about Kevin O'Connell because we're Vikings fans. He just won Coach of the Year last year. Great coach, has all of these characteristics that we've talked about that make a good coach. But then you have the assistants and the coordinators, and the team I wanted to talk about was the Lions because they've been good the past couple of years, but they just lost who people say are some of the best coordinators at their respective positions in the whole league. So how do you think that'll affect the Lions as a whole?
Man, that's so tough. Well, first off, props to we talked about this earlier, but props to Dan Campbell because he created a culture there
Hmm.
that has changed. And so if that culture wasn't changed the way it is now, and then they were lost, I think it'd be have a bigger impact.
Yeah.
However, when you got the whole offensive and defensive sides of the ball, because every inch matters in the NFL,
Hmm.
every game matters, and so I would chalk up 2 or 3 losses due to coordinator, which can change the whole playoff seeding and even making it into the playoffs. And so I think it will affect them, and I think it will affect them negatively now when they're 14-win team last year.
Yeah, I believe so.
If you're a 14-win team and you lose a couple more games, it's not saying they're going to be awful, terrible, things
Yeah.
like that.
Oh no, now you're a 12 win
Um,
team.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's like, okay, if they win less than 10, yes, I'll be shocked. If they win 14 again, I'll be shocked. And so,
Hmm.
not to give the easy stance cop out answer, but it's like it's going to affect them negatively. However, I don't think it's going to be as negative because the head coach is there and he established the culture already.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just so tough, like losing Ben Johnson, who almost everyone would agree was the best like coordinator, offensive coordinator the past couple of years. Um, there's like other offensive coaches that people could put above him or whatever, but just for offensive coordinator, I think he was probably the best. And then Aaron Glenn, who was one of the better defensive coordinators, and like they don't have a ton. They didn't have a ton of talent on defense until like last year. Really, they stepped it up quite a bit, but then they had a bunch of injuries and all that. But it's just so I'm so curious because you also don't know what the people stepping in learned from these coordinators and the coach. So how similar is it going to be? Do they have the right attitude? Do they have the right scheme to be successful?
Well, I'll go back to what I said before. Either coaching matters or it doesn't.
Hmm.
And we believe that it does. And so it's going to have an effect. A lot of times, what new coaches do is they want to bring in their own stuff. Now, the best coaches keep the strengths of the things that were already there
Hmm.
and then add any strengths to any weaknesses that were there. So theoretically, if you're a Lions fan, you want all the strengths to be there from from the learning that Coach Aaron Glenn did and Ben Johnson, but then to cover up any weaknesses
Hmm.
by adding your own new stuff into it. That's a lot harder to do than it sounds.
Yeah.
Um, especially because the element of coaching is that we've talked about this, but it's very relational too. And so it's not just the X's and O's, it's the players trusted the coaches that were there
Hmm.
and were had success with. And so, hey, if things start going south, there's going to be that natural thing in the back of your head that goes, "Oh, they just don't understand me like the other coach did," or hey, I
Yeah.
used to be able to like say this and I could be heard, but now I feel like they're not hearing me. I saw this thing recently, like DK Metcalf got mad once and he took the headset and started talking to the coordinators
Hmm.
upstairs in the middle of a game
Yeah.
because he said like these guys, the 49ers always play short on third down. And so if we do these hitch routes, they're going to be there. We just got to run by them on third down. It's going to be open. And they
Hmm.
kept doing hitch routes. And then DK got so mad. He's like, listen to me. Like, you're
Yeah.
going to keep batting these balls away on third down. What are we doing? So things like that can happen.
Yeah. And I think coaching, just talking about the NFL, I think the sport plays a factor in how important coaching is. Usually, I would say the more people you have on the team at once or on the field at once probably means coaching is more important because there's a lower chance that one person can make a huge difference, if that makes sense. Especially for a sport like football, where
Mm-hmm.
there's so many intricacies and schemes and all that that you have to know. I mean, most of that, if not all of that's on the coach for a lot of teams. But then you have, I think, obviously the head coach is the most important. That's why he's the head coach. And then you have the coordinators who are also very important, but probably not to the same level. Kind of like what we're just talking about. If you have Dan Campbell, but you lose your two coordinators, you're probably still going to be successful because he's shown that he knows how to build the team the right way. And then there's like other things like quarterback is super important. But I would say the coaching as a whole is over half of what makes a great team in a lot of cases. There's plenty of teams that they're not good the year before. They get a new coach and no one thinks they're going to be good because like, oh, they don't really have talent. They have this first year coach. But then the coach transforms the team and now all of a sudden they're a 13 win team. Commanders are a
Mm-hmm.
perfect example of that, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, and that's a combination, obviously, the player and the coach, but put the player in another circumstance wouldn't have been as successful. Have the coach not have the player, so it is
Hmm.
it is a balance and it does matter.
Yeah.
What do you think of the quote or the saying that the league or coaching has ruined more good quarterbacks than there actually have been bad quarterbacks?
I mean, I think that's completely fair to say. It's hard to, like,
Yeah.
all these players that they get drafted for a reason, especially in the first round. There's so many first round quarterbacks that bust, and like, there's no way that people were wrong on that many of them. Like, that many professional level scouts were that wrong on that many quarterbacks. That's just,
Hmm.
it wouldn't make sense to me. But then it makes perfect sense if the place they go to fails them and doesn't give them what they want. Because I feel like if you make the NFL, you're almost guaranteed some sort of situation where you can be successful in. But it doesn't mean you're going to get that situation. There's got to be a place for everyone to be successful. It just matters if they hit the right spot or not.
There's so many there's so many examples, and so if somebody hears this, they can think of a counter and a counter. The
Hmm.
two I'm thinking of, one is the olden day popular one, the Tom Brady 6th round pick. Obviously, he was good. He went to Big Ten, Michigan,
Hmm.
but he was behind Drew Bledsoe, who was good, and he had Bill Belichick as a coach, who's very authoritarian, straightforward, and that's also we talked about earlier. That's also the type of coaching Tom liked,
Hmm.
and so that all worked out really well. But the thing with that situation is that Tom unfortunate for Drew, he got an opportunity because of injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then so like the coaching helped, his perseverance helped, and then he got the chance, and then the player made it happen. And then the first, they talk about the first few Super Bowls, strong defense, strong coaching, and then allowed Tom to develop and become really good. Now, the more recent example that's a little different, but maybe similar to, I guess, but is the whole Shedeur Sanders thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, all right, you're a quarterback number 4, and there's 5 quarterbacks on the team that's drafted you, and the second drafted quarterback.
Yeah.
Kevin Stefanski is I would say is a good coach who's there too, but it's very much so like there's a world. He again got an opportunity just this preseason because of injury,
Mm-hmm.
and he did well with it. But there's a world where, because of how many quarterbacks there are, and because of injury, he doesn't get a chance. Or you know what? I just thought of this. Take Dylan Gabriel, his co-rookie with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been injured. He hasn't been doing as well in training camp either, but he might get a tiny chance to play on one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
And who knows? He might not ever get a chance to actually play in the NFL game.
Yeah.
Not to no fault of his own. And so I'm not saying it's bad coaching, but just to answer the question, it's like there is coaching involved, but it also is a circumstance you go to.
Yeah. I mean, you could say a lot of it is luck, I guess, and people just fall into the right spots. Obviously, back to the Tom Brady thing, if you see an opportunity open up and you take that opportunity and you don't let it go, then you can control that as much as you possibly can. And whether you think it or not, there's probably ways where a lot of these quarterbacks can take their opportunities more seriously or do better with them than what they're even trying right now. Even if they think like, what more can I possibly do to become a starter in the league or to be successful or even be a backup, like a guaranteed backup. But like there's a high chance that there is a lot more they can do that they just don't even know yet. And maybe that is because the coaching hasn't made them aware of like the opportunities that they have.
That was great. That's what I was gonna say. It's that, and this is like, all right, where does coaching come into this? So they just got screwed out of an opportunity. It's like it's no. So there is going to be an opportunity, whether it's in practice or not. You get to run with the ones. You get, somebody gets hurt, whatever it is, or to even be a practice guy and just like show off against the number 1 defense.
Yeah.
Right. But that's where coaching comes in to not only motivate and be relational, but to teach them skills to say like, you need to be prepared. So if the opportunity does arise, because it will at some point,
Mm-hmm.
that you have an opportunity to step in there. And so the level of fairness on equal opportunity may vary from person to person, but the coaching then is getting them to a place. We talked about that potential, so that when the opportunity arises, they have the highest chance of success to be successful because of everything that's led up to that situation. So I'm assuming, again, Tom got lucky that Drew got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
However, knowing his personality now and his tenacity and kind of honestly the psychotic nature of how hard he works and things like that, his mental,
Yeah.
the whole Michael Jordan mental, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is that he definitely got himself in a place to be ready because of whether it was being a psycho, being prideful, being excellent.
Yeah.
That when the opportunity came, he was ready. And so coaching is getting that out of people to tell them like, this is your opportunity. Don't waste these couple of years because it's all you got.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's getting that potential, like you talked about before with the purpose of coaching. It's if you have these people that want so bad to be a star or even to be a starter somewhere, whatever, it's your job as a coach then to make them realize that potential and have them reach that potential. It gets hard when you have 5 players at one position that you all want to do that with, but that often means that you have to let them go other places to reach that potential as well.
Mm-hmm. And one element of coaching we talked about with curiosity is the Coaching for Performance book. It's an older, very popular one. It's all about asking the players like, hey, how did you feel when you were doing that? When you were making that throw, when you were hitting that tennis ball, like,
Mm-hmm.
how did it feel? So it's not even necessarily like there is the film element of see your elbows dipped here and there. It's like, Sure, but also we want them to be natural with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's, hey, how did you feel? The baseball guy. It's, I feel better hitting dingers. So like, let me get good at doing this
Yeah.
versus trying to just lay things down to make contact.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of coaching you can do. Also, it's helping the person to realize what feels good, what's natural for you. I kind of recognize like I've never thought about what it feels like when I throw.
Hmm.
You know, it actually kind of hurts my hips a little bit. It's like, well, let's change that a little bit. So yeah, I think the NFL season's starting up here. Well, when we release this, it'll be game week. So
Yeah.
very exciting. I'm sure we'll have some episodes talking about things that we've seen in the league, just reflecting on our experience watching, or who knows, maybe even going to a game eventually. Probably not too expensive,
That would
but
be fun,
it'd be
though.
pretty cool.
Good birthday present.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, a little double birthday.
Yeah.
Our birthdays are one day apart.
Yeah.
So let's go. It'd be so fun. Okay, cool. We'll probably wrap it up for today. You have any other thoughts?
Nope, that's it.
That's it. Sweet. Well, we'll see you guys next time on Mirrors. Peace.
Bye.